Welcome back to Dominion League action. This is the second match here against E.Honda. We have a bunch of interesting things on the board. There's Lost Arts, which gives you a plus action token. So I was thinking about sticking it down on the Witch. That seems to be the best place to put it. In general, you want to put it on cards, on draw cards. There's also Labyrinth, which rewards you for gaining more than one card in your turn. I looked at Grave Robber for that. Trade Route gives you a plus buy, but perhaps the best way to do that is via Border Village, gaining something else. Now, I considered a few openings here, Sauna Silver being the standout, of course, the classic Sauna Silver opening, but I decided not to go for that in light of my opponent's Witch, which I assume he will get on his next turn. He started with 2-5, I assume. So in light of that, I am going to pick up an amulet here instead of the silver to try to trash some cards out of my deck as quickly as possible to help deal with those incoming curses. And yep, so said, so done. A witch is bought and I have to deal with that soon. In fact, I even don't pick up a Sauna here. I believe the Caravan does more for me in the early game right now, allowing me to see my amulet a bit more frequently and giving me a bit of draw to help me get up to the key price points on this board in a deck that I anticipate to be filled with curses soon. So I'm Caravan Silver against my opponent's Witch, and I did plan here to get Sauna and Silver on my next two turns, 3 and 4. The Sauna and Silver pair helps the trash as well, and it also gives me a bit of footing into the Sauna Avanto business. Now, unfortunately for my opponent, his Witch miss here, seeing it on turn 5, so it means I get a free, or a whole shuffle with no curse in it, so that helps me out a big deal here. Now this turn is a bit interesting. I did say I wanted to get the amulet to trash, but I am not going to trash right away. Instead, I'm going to take the +1 coin here because I want to try to sneak up to Border Village. I knew that I trashed an estate with the amulet last time. There's only 2 estates left in my deck. There's a very small chance that I will not be able to get to 6 here. And as it turns out, I am able to get to 7 actually, allowing me to trash a copper. And I don't go for the Lost Arts token because there's nothing really to put it on yet. And instead, I go for a Border Village Witch pair, which is excellent. Now I have a Witch. I can start returning curses back to my opponent. Well, not back to him, but giving him a few. And I also pick up a couple points for that from the Labyrinth. So all those things helped influence my decision there. So my opponent, on the other hand, has an amulet himself and a couple caravans by now. He doesn't have a Sauna yet. I don't know if he's going to pick up a Sauna at all. He has a couple silvers as well, so maybe, but I'm not sure. So here I draw into 5, not 6, of course 6. Again, I would have perhaps picked up a Border Village here and another Witch, just because I could get that engine going, right? Border Village Witch, Border Village Witch. So 5 here could be something, but instead I decided to just choose 4, and it could be a Sauna. I did start in on the Saunas, but I feel Caravan is just better than Sauna at this point. I really feel Caravan is just better. I considered picking up a Peddler as well, but Caravan draws, and I think that's better than the Sauna at this point in the game. Anyways, so my opponent is able to get up to Border Village himself here, picking up another Witch along the way, so that is a little bit scary. If those things draw nicely for him, I could be flooded with curses very, very soon. Again, turning down another Sauna there for the Caravan, because I need to be able to keep up with the trashing. You see, my opponent is able to stick 2 curses into my deck, and the Sauna needs to collide with the silver for it to work. I cannot guarantee that happening, but what I can do is make sure that I see my amulet more often, and the Caravan will allow me to do that. So still just trying to get the deck under a bit of control here is why I'm picking up these Caravans instead of the Saunas right now. So luckily I draw into my silver here, and it means that, look, I get to trash 2 curses and pick up another Border Village and a Witch thing, Witch pair. So I could have picked up a Lost Arts or put the token on the Witch pile at this point in the game, but At this point in the game, I don't really see a reason to do that. I have enough actions. My deck is fairly thin. I shouldn't have too many problems finding Border Village and Witch together, and the caravans have a part to play in that because it draws me a couple extra cards at the start of my turn. So I felt like I didn't really want to spend that money on the Lost Arts. There's also the 2 points to pick up from the Labyrinth. I wanted to get those as well, just to, keep chipping away at those. If possible, you don't really want to lose the landmark split, of course. So if you've noticed my opponent's side, he hasn't been able to trash as nicely as I have. Maybe he drew into his Amulet Dead or something, but at this point in the game, he has a lot more curses than I do, and I believe just a bigger deck in general. I'm able to draw everything here, and I don't think my opponent can do the same. So what I'm going to do here is trash 1 copper, just keep enough money for 6 for a Border Village is what I mean. And I'm going to pick up the Border Village here. So on my last turn, on my opponent's last turn, he picked up a Band of Misfits, which I found interesting. And I also followed him on it because, well, mostly I want to play it as a trade route, but it is just better than gaining the trade route here. I also considered Grave Robber at this point, but you need to trash actions, and there aren't too many actions that I want to trash right now in my deck. So I do end up going for the Band of Misfits. Another bad turn for my opponent here, not able to see his Border Village with his Witch. Like I said, the Band of Misfits will be mostly used as a trade route. If I need to play it as a caravan, I will play it as a caravan. Anyways, at this point now, with my ability to draw the deck, I start putting silvers into it because I am going to trash these remaining coppers here and still have 6 for a Border Village and something pair anyway. And here this trade route comes out, or the Band of Misfits as a trade route. The reason for the plus buy is, well, Peddler is dirt cheap right now, and it's a bit of money that I could put into my deck for very little consequence. It won't affect the draw at all. So Border Village, and here I start on the distant lands. It makes the trade route a little better, and look, the reason for the distant lands is if you want to develop your deck, you could do it in a few ways here. You need more draw and more plus buy, and that takes some time to build. I did have the time, like I felt like at this point in the game I could have done like nearly anything reasonable and come out with the win because my opponent was just so far behind. So I could have picked up more witches, gained more silvers with the amulets, bought a gold perhaps, then starting on the grave robbers. But instead I just decided to stick with the distant lands. The nice thing about the distant lands is that it disappears from your deck. So right now I'm just setting aside a single distant lands a turn here with no impact whatsoever on my ability to draw, and that is the nice thing, beautiful thing about distant lands. My opponent tries to join me on the distant lands here, but I'm very happy to see him do that. He has some curses he has to see about first, and if he follows me on the distant lands, that pile will empty and I'm getting them with border villages, meaning the border village pile will soon be empty, running into a 3 pile. So he can't really follow me on the distant lands, and I'm all too happy to just buy 1 a turn. Maybe I'll get enough money from the peddler soon enough to buy 2 a turn and just stick them down on the mat for the win. And that is what ends up happening. The border villages empty out and I buy the last 2 distant lands to close the game out here. So this last part of the game was fairly repetitive, which is why I sped it up so much, but I've already described to you how it happens. Couple distant lands for me here, and I am able to buy the next 2 on the next turn with my points lead. So that is game 1. Unfortunate for my opponent to have the witch miss, but thank you for watching and I will see you.